All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it's week number 12. We're almost there. We're almost to rivalry week. It has been a long, winding road for college football, but the man who has been voted having the best beard in Vero Beach, my co-host Fresh, receiving his trophy over Thanksgiving weekend.
Haps, I'm doing great. Things are rolling strong. Can't believe it's week 12, but we got a bunch of intriguing matchups. Still a lot of open bids for conference title games in the line the last 2 weeks of the year series. A lot of things worth fighting for. And obviously, still the playoff spots are well outstanding and still to be decided in a couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of fun matchups throughout the country this week. It's kind of neat because this is one of those weekends that we get to go a little bit away from the Power 5 conferences and talk about a couple of games that may not be on people's radar. So let's go to the first one. This matchup is going to be a fun one, man. This is going to be at noon. We're going to SMU at Memphis. Currently, at time of record, SMU is an 8.5-point road favorite. Over under is set at 65.5 points. Both of these teams are 8-2 on the season. SMU is 6-0 in the conference. Memphis is 5-1. This is basically a conference playing game. And I'm not sure, do they have divisions or are they one of the wide open ones?
Wide open, top two go.
So let's take a look at this one here, Fresh. What you got with SMU versus Memphis?
Well, you've got two of the real teams in a fighting spot there. SMU obviously undefeated in the American. Memphis is only AAC loss to Tulane, and they also have a loss by 7 to Missouri. So they've definitely played some powerhouses, and that showed throughout the season. They both have won 4 straight, really on a good run here down the stretch. That's how you sort of build momentum. Coming in these games actually mean more. But I'm kind of worried about Memphis' defense. They've been able to outscore, but their defense has been having some holes lately. Gave up 38, 50, 42, and 21 in their last 4, and those opponents were Charlotte, USF, North Texas, and UAB. Not exactly a murderer's row of college football offenses. So it kind of has me scared there. I mean, luckily they have Seth Hennigan at quarterback, who's been a real bright spot, 2,864 passing yards, over 20 touchdowns, very limited on the turnovers from intercepted perspective. Also has leads the AAC in passing yards, so he's definitely been able to put up points, keep the ball moving for the Tigers and putting up yards. But they're going to need a lot of that on Saturday because that defense has been a little suspect as the season's progressed. He has been able to be balanced out offensively. Running back Blake Watson, 900 plus yards there, and receiver Rock Taylor, 779. The two of them really been able to build a triumvirate of an effort, really getting after it, complementing each other in the offensive, philosophy for what the Tigers want to do. They're both going to, actually all three are going to have big games on Saturday to take down SMU because not only is SMU have a pretty good record, they have an amazing defense, and they actually lead the league and lead the conference in defense. Their quarterback, Preston Stone, pretty almost similar to what Hennigan's been able to put up. Very, very similar numbers across the board. And they've been able to really spread it around. 8 different receivers have at least 16 receptions and 242 yards. So it's not one guy making things happen for the Mustangs. They're really getting it from all around, the entire offense. And then obviously Jalen Knight and L.J. Johnson, the two running backs, have combined for 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. So it is a wide open spectrum for SMU. They're really finding different weapons and different ways to attack you. And so it's really no one you can truly focus on, and it allows the quarterback to really explore and expand the offense and take advantage of any opportunity that might be there in coverage when the defense comes in there. You're talking about the defense for SMU. They really have got to make sure they show up. They can't have a little off game. They've got to make sure they show up and get it done. But they are the best defense in the AAC, and they're really truly led by Elijah Roberts. He has 8.5 sacks so far. He's going to have at least 2 in this football game to really get them over the hump and get them in a chance to play Tulane, most likely, for the AAC title in a couple of weeks. So if they can keep moving that momentum defensively and get some stops, they're in great shape. This game is in Memphis. Crazy things happen. I think it's going to be a shootout. We're going to have a lot of points early. I don't think SMU's defense is going to be as amazing because they haven't played truly prolific offenses outside of Oklahoma all year, and they gave up 28 in that one. So I got a feeling they're going to have some, their numbers probably look better than what the talent they've actually played in the season. But I think we're going to get to more of like a 38-35 ball game. And you know what? Just for giggles and for chaos, give me the Memphis Tigers at home to win outright. I think this Hannigan's going to come in there. They have a chance. They've been tested, versus Tulane. They already had that close loss. They were tested versus Missouri. I think that battle-tested mentality is going to catch up with them and give them a little extra boost in this football game and show that they actually are a better football team. So the Memphis Tigers pull off the upset, take down SMU, give them their first conference loss, and keep themselves in a good spot to play for an AAC title in a couple weeks.
Yeah, Fresh. The more I dived into this Memphis Tigers team, man, the more I really started liking them. And I'm going to give you my comparison. This is like the Diet Coke version of TCU and K-State last year. A good quarterback holds onto the football with a dynamic running back, kind of a do-everything running back. You talked about Blake Watson. He's got six of his 12 touchdowns have come in the last 4 games. He also has added a touchdown through the air on that one. He's their number 3 receiver, technically number 2 receiver, if you take a look at, with 43 catches on this year. I think SMU, the interesting thing with SMU's defense is that they have 35 sacks on the year. They're creating a lot of pressure. How do you negate that as an offensive coach? How does the offensive coordinator kind of say, you know what? I know what you're going to try to do. I know what you're going to do to try to get after my quarterback. And that's using the running back as a receiving threat out of the backfield. It's having that screen game. It's dumping the ball off to him in the flats. SMU is going to have to account for that. That also means by having to account for those little flare out passes that they're going to have to keep a guy back instead of putting out maybe a 2-man pressure blitz or 3, sending all the linebackers there. SMU's done a really good job, and I'm glad you brought up Elijah Roberts. The kid's been an absolute beast. Probably one of the best defensive ends that isn't really being talked about outside of the Power 5 conference. I really like the kid. He's just been kind of like a one-man wrecking crew. But again, like I said, SMU's got 35 sacks. If they get after the quarterback, if Hannigan starts taking like 2, 3, 4 sacks in this game where they're really, it seems like every single drive that they're taking a sack along the way, SMU is going to win this game. If you can figure out a way to negate Memphis, if Memphis can figure out a way to negate SMU's pressure, just like I talked about, with the running back and being able to flare that out, I think that this could be a long game for the Mustangs there. SMU is really looking to becoming a Power 5 team again, going back to the days of the Big 8 and being in that area of Waco, of Dallas, of San Antonio, of all those teams that were like, that was powerhouse football back in the 80s. And SMU's kind of like a phoenix come from the ashes. But don't sleep on Memphis either. Memphis is investing a lot of money into their football program. New stadium on the way, all sorts of new things going on there at Memphis. I'm with you, Fresh. Give me Memphis in the 8.5. If you're giving me Memphis in 8.5, I love this as a sleeper pick. I love Memphis on money line as well on the outright win. And I'm going to say the under comes in. 65.5 is a lot, but I can see like a 31-28 type of game with Memphis, winning this and being a huge victory for the Tigers.
Like I tell you right now, it's going to be a good game. We're going to get 2 quality football teams showing up there on Saturday at noon. And noon kickoffs are always kind of crazy. Bonker things happen because people are still getting out of bed. And actually, in Memphis, it's an 11 a.m. kick, so that's where it really gets the day going when you have that nonsense and you're waking up early trying to play football.
Right, and folks, if you're looking for just a really good football game to watch, that would be the one I'd throw on at noon. If you are like, I just want a really good back and forth football game, I'm probably throwing on SMU Memphis. All right, Fresh, let's go to the West Coast. This is a 3:30 kick. This is out in Colorado at the Air Force Academy. The UNLV Running Rebels are traveling to Air Force. Both these teams are 8-2 on the season, 5-1 in the Mountain West Conference. Guys, we told you this is a great weekend to go outside the Power 5. Love this matchup here. At time of record, Air Force is a 3-point home favorite. Over-under is set at 47.5. Probably take the under in this unless you're going to count on UNLV putting up mass quantities of points here, because Air Force is going to take the air out of the football here and run it. Oh, yeah, and they may run it again. So, Fresh, I'll turn it over to you. What you got for UNLV Air Force?
Well, and we got running Rebels and we got Falcons, but I expect this to be a fast game. Both teams love to run the football. The clock is going to be churning. This game could be over in less than 2.5 hours if all goes according to plan the way that both these teams operate. Right now, Air Force second best rushing attack in the country, averaging 275.9 a game. UNLV is third in the Mountain West, averaging 195.7 rushing yards a game. So they really love to be ground and pound, ground and pound, ground and pound. Clock is going to run and play defense on top of that. So really expect a very fast pace. Each team might only get 6 possessions, maybe 7 possessions of a football game, which is unheard of. But if you can maintain long drives and kill the clock and score at the end of them, it really eliminates those opportunities. And that's kind of what plays in both these teams' philosophies of the entire season is long drives, sustained drives, points, limit possessions, and kill the clock. The one thing that does kind of worry me for Air Force, 2-game losing streak to Army and Hawaii. Record-wise, they were inferior, but they just could not get the job done. Had to throw the ball a lot versus Army. They got down early, tried to scramble and come back. And the other worrisome part is quarterback Zach Larriere was supposed to be out for a while. Somehow, everyone said he wasn't going to play. Played versus Navy. They won the football game. Played, ineffectively versus Army. Played 2 plays versus Hawaii and was out of the ball game. No injury designation that anyone's really said other than he got knocked out, but we don't know if he's coming back, what's his status. Nobody has an idea. So it's very, it's very open-ended right now for what Air Force offensively is going to bring to this football game. If he's going to be behind center or they're running the 2 backups, because the 2 backups, Jensen Jones and Ben Britton, combined for 4 turnovers versus Hawaii, and that's a big reason why they lost. And this entire Falcon offense has only scored 16 points in the last 2 football games, a major difference from what they were rolling out early in the year. They were storming people. They were putting up points and yards at a pretty historic pace. And right now they've completely just emptied out the tank and they have nothing left. So will that team be recharged? Will they refine the running game? No matter who the quarterback is, Emmanuel Michel has got to be the number one, tailback for the Falcons. He's got to get back on track and start taking the load and putting yards after yards after yards and score touchdowns. And that offensive line has got to start getting their cut blocks and open up some holes for this offense to operate. Because if not, Falcons could be in some trouble. So Troy Calhoun has really got to get that staff, and that team organized coming into Saturday. They had everything in front of them. They could have walked themselves right into the Mountain West title game. That big loss to Hawaii out there on the island. That's a tough one to come back from. And it puts them in a really dire situation now with the way Fresno State's playing and the way that UNLV's playing. They could actually see themselves on the outside looking in for the title game, which would be a major step back considering where they were about 3 weeks ago and looking pretty. So looking pretty good. On the other side, UNLV. You have absolutely amazing what Odom has done there. Came in his first year, got the entire team focused, recharged, playing physical football, and I think they've shocked even everyone in the program. They've shocked everyone in the fan base that they had this massive turnaround so quickly, and they've been so effective. But it really, you kind of look at where this team has sort of grown. They've played solid defense, but they've gotten offensive production from a bunch of players. Number one, wide receiver Ricky White. 62 receptions, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. He has been the only person in that passing attack that's really done any damage. Next on the list behind him is Jacob DeJesus, 39 receptions for 393 and 2 touchdowns. And then it really drops off from there. So it's really a one receiver option. The fact that he's still getting 1,000 yards and getting almost double receptions and nobody's going to stop him is really a testament to the play action and the play design that they've been able to use for UNLV. They've been a real major running focus team, as we mentioned earlier, between Vincent Davis, Jaden Thomas, and Donovan Lester. They've combined for 1,300 yards and 21 rushing touchdowns, averaging 5 yards a carry combined. So the 3 of them, they are able to mix and match, get it done, and they build the play action off of that. If they can all 3 keep that production going, the offensive line can keep popping against that strong Air Force defense, UNLV can win. This game is in Colorado Springs. Elevation's a little issue. It's going to be, a little cooler than being in Vegas in a dome. But really, what kind of veteran and disciplined football team shows up? Is UNLV getting a little big-headed? Last time they went on the road against a tough team, they went to Fresno State, and they got beat pretty good. Will does Air Force, using this past couple of weeks to sort of get themselves refocused? Are they recharged? Are they disciplined enough to go out there and get themselves a win when they actually mostly need it in this football game? They're third best defense in the nation when it comes to yards allowed. They're only giving up 245. Can they be able to limit this UNLV offense? And that really comes back to not just their defense being good, but their offense being successful and being able to maintain drives. In the end, I think Air Force, they're able to do enough offensively, mixing and matching and being disciplined enough to win this football game. It's going to be low scoring, more like a 21-17, 20-13 football game. But the Air Force Falcons will get themselves off the mat. They will defeat UNLV and get themselves one step closer to the Mountain West title game. I think the under is definitely going to come in as a football game, but Air Force will win.
Fresh, I'm with you. I'm a little nervous about Air Force because this isn't the Air Force team that we saw go 7-0. This is a really weak Air Force team that we're seeing 0-2 in the last two games. Just like you talked about, Air Force is going to try to keep the ball on the ground. They're going to limit their passing attempts. The worst thing that can happen for Air Force is that they get down. UNLV's got to be careful though, because this is the first time this season that they're going up a team that runs the triple option. There's a reason Army or teams that play Army or Navy on a routine basis will have a better shot against Air Force is because they've seen the triple option before. When a team only plays one triple option team, you're not used to that. You're not used to the defensive reads. You're not used to the assignments that you have to have. That's going to be the big test for UNLV. Are they able to stick to the assignment? Are they able to limit the ground game there? Because really the most important player is Emmanuel Michael for Air Force there, the fullback there. You take a look at him, 733 yards. He's got 9 touchdowns on the year. That's going to be the go point. Zach Larriere, I know he's injured. We never know with injury designations or anything like that. So we're going to continue to monitor that situation. But again, as long as they got Michael in this game, they definitely have a shot in that opportunity. Even if Larriere is out for the year or out for this week, Jones and Britton, whoever is going to be the quarterback, wound up getting some snaps over the week. They're going to be able to run with the ones. I think you're going to see a much better performance this week than you did in the weeks previously. For UNLV, to be fresh, I was waiting for you to talk about their freshman quarterback, 6'4", Jaden Maeva. Now, there's a couple of things. Jaden Maeva is Samoan, man. And if you know anything about Samoans, they do a couple of things really, really well. One, they make amazing pork. Okay? If you've not had Samoan pork, it's phenomenal. Two, they have really cool tattoos, the tribal tattoos. I mean, that's where all it came from in the 90s. They built amazing pro wrestlers. If you haven't ever seen the Samoan family tree when it comes to pro wrestlers, and they built darn good football players. All of these things come from the Samoan heritage, and they have really cool warm-up dances. Maeva's been awesome as a freshman. And you think about like what has been put onto his shoulders this season there in Las Vegas. As a true freshman, this kid's been lights out. The thing that makes me a little bit interested about him, he's a hometown boy. Played his football in Las Vegas there. He's playing his college football there. If he wasn't from Vegas, I would be saying that this kid's a strong transfer, as a strong possibility to enter the transfer portal and to be a big pickup for a Power 5 school. But I think he's going to like staying and playing close to home. 65 yards or 65% completion ratio on the year, and he's only taken 6 sacks on the year. So he's getting rid of the football, living to play another day. His legs aren't a huge threat. He can run a little bit. He's got 3 rushing scores as well, but he's not a true dual threat. He doesn't need to be with Davis and Thomas back there. But I went and I looked a little bit more into UNLV. The thing that impressed me with UNLV, they have recovered every fumble that they have forced this year. They have forced 8 fumbles, recovered all 8 of them. They also have 13 interceptions on the year. Not going to be a factor, though, playing a team like Air Force. So take a look. They also have a very interesting, and again, I'm talking Samoans. I'm talking kickers now. Jose Pizzano. I don't know if he's Hispanic.
Great
I
job.
don't know
Well done.
if he's Italian, if a little bit mixed. But the kid's 41 for 41 on extra points, 21 of 22 for field goals. Has a long of 52. He has been lights out, man. This kid is a weapon. And especially in a place like Colorado where the air is really thin, that ball is going to boom off of his foot. he could come into a big-time player in this game. He really could. He's one of the best kickers in college football, in my opinion. He's done a remarkable job. I'm with you, Fresh. I think Air Force is going to have a bounce-back game, but the 3 points is right where I like the score at. Like, if this was Air Force by 4, I might be taking you. I would probably be taking UNLV in the points. But I like Air Force -3. But would not shock me if UNLV pulls the upset. I'm going to take the over. Not by much. Couple of points. Take the over by a couple of points there. I'm liking it right around 49, maybe 50. I think that there's going to be a couple of touchdowns in this game. All right, Fresh. Let's go to the Irrational Confidence Podcast. Favorite state in the entire country. These two fan bases have been one of the most supportive of us all year long. We've had a lot of great support all year from a lot of different fan bases, but we love it. If you're a Kansas fan, if you're a K-State fan, leave us a comment. Talk some smack to the other side in the comment section here. You know why? Because we love both of these fan bases. You guys have been phenomenal all year long. And when we saw this game come up, we said, I don't care what the records are. I don't care if any of them are absolutely terrible. Neither one of them are. Both of them 7-3 on the year. K-State is 5-2. Kansas coming off that loss. They're 4-3 on the season in the conference. This is a rivalry game. This is for the state of Kansas. Fresh will have some great insight of what the rivalry is called and all of that stuff there. But this game is played in Lawrence, Kansas, so the Jayhawks are going to be a home team. At time of record, though, K-State is a 8-point road favorite at this time. That makes me real leery right there. Over-under set at 55.5. Fresh, we're kind of waiting like everyone else. Is Jason Bean going to play in this game for Jayhawks? If he plays, my opinion kind of shifts. If he doesn't play, I'm getting nervous for the Jayhawks here. What say you?
Yep. Folks, in case you weren't aware, hope if you're one of the fans of both these teams, you probably are, but anyone out there just in general. So Jason Bean had been started for the majority of the year with Jalen Daniels dealing with some injuries, and he was knocked out in the first quarter versus Texas Tech. Right now, there's no word if he is active, if he's healthy, or what his status is for this weekend. So I think that's where the whole line of 8.5. Obviously, K-State's been a pretty solid football team all year, but in a rivalry game, that's pretty significant. So that tends to lean in my direction that the status of the quarterback is still up in the air, and nothing's really truly been defined. Who knows if Daniels is even healthy enough to play? He played 3 games. Maybe he's going to sit the rest of the year out, red shirt, get himself fully healthy. Obviously, we don't get injury reports in college, so we have no clue what is going to go on right now and what Lance Leipold is thinking there for the Jayhawks on that offensive side of the football. I do know, though, at the end of the day, whether it's going to be Jason Bean, Jalen Daniels, or a freshman Cole Ballard who played last week versus Texas Tech, running back Devin Neal is going to have to be the focal point of the offense. Left, right, up, down, north, south, east, west, whatever direction you want to get in the football, he needs to get it and get it often and early to be successful for Kansas, to be in this football game, to have a shooting shot. Because K-State with Will Howard and DJ Giddens, they are a well-oiled and disciplined machine from that side of the football, and they are able to move the ball when they want to and score. K-State, they have been known under Chris Kleiman as a very physical football team. They're going to run the football and play action off of that. Will Howard has been definitely in the mix. He's been in and out of the lineup. They've gone with multiple quarterbacks at times, but I think he's still the veteran, wily guy who gives them some of that stability at quarterback, in my opinion. But we'll see. They mix and match all season. We'll see what happens when they get to this ball game. But there's a lot of unknown question marks when it comes to the majority of the snaps for both teams for the quarterback spot. K-State's offensive line, very solid. They run the ball very well. They open up. They protect the quarterback. They're not going to put 4 receivers in the field. They're going to guide themselves down, matriculate the ball, maintain down distance, and then defensively be very physical and tackle well. They have had a couple clunkers, like the Oklahoma State game. I think that we all thought that was a clunker when they lost in Stillwater, but that turned out to be Oklahoma State being a pretty good football team. For this team, they tackle well defensively. They're very assignment-based, and they are not going to be confused or deceived by the offense. They're going to be on point, on play, on script, and making things happen defensively. Kansas's defense is where they've been a little much more up and down throughout the year. Had a lot of gaps. Their offensive been able to keep them in football games, and that's kind of where this entire football game comes down to it. I think K State has better defense than Kansas. Kansas has some more amazing playmakers if Daniels or Bean are playing at quarterback, pairing that with Neal at running back. But if one of them is out, um, the dynamic of that offense is definitely downgraded and swings much more in the favor of Kansas State. Rivalry games, crazy things happen. Sunflower State Showdown. There's a lot of things that happen here where K State's dominated for a long time. This game being in Lawrence, I think it adds a little extra boost for the Kansas Jayhawks. Um, it I want to say Kansas has it, but there's an extra little incentive there for K State. Technically, they are still alive in the Big 12 race to defend their title with a win. It'd be a long shot to get to the title game. They would need Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Iowa State at least all lose at least one more ball game to get there, but they're still technically mathematically alive. And I think that gives them a little extra boost. Kansas State in a 34-31, 37-30 ball game. It's going to be a very entertaining 3:30 kickoff. But I think Kansas State has just enough to keep them going, especially with the unknown situations of the quarterback side for Kansas. Jayhawks, they put up a valiant effort, but the Wildcats get it done and keep their hopes of defending their Big 12 title for another week still alive.
Yeah, Fresh. This is referred to as the Sunflower Showdown. I love it. The Sunflower Showdown. It is. Started playing back all the way back in 1902. It has been played every single year since 1911. It is the fourth oldest active rivalry game in college football. Back in the day, they used to give out the Peace Pack Trophy in this game, which is a miniature bronze goalpost. All this is according to the internet here. So hopefully the internet's right on this stuff. Because,
You never know.
all these things, it's interesting. Fresh, I'm excited for this game. I think that everyone's going to focus on Will Howard. I think people are going to, right now, I did find Leopold during his press conference right now. He didn't really say Bean would play. He is optimistic that early this week that Jason Bean will be able to play in this game. It didn't sound like it's a ringing endorsement, but, hopefully this kid does get to play. This game's going to come down to the running backs. Which running back is going to have a day for them? Devin Neal, with Jason Bean going out last weekend, 137 yards and a touchdown last week. He's got 10 scores on the year. He's been a nice running back for them, for Kansas. Really impressive. And then you take a look at DJ Gittens over at Kansas State. He was the spellback last year. We saw a little bit out of him. People were really you kind of get excited about him because he averaged 5.8 yards a carry last year. And this year he's averaging 6 yards a carry, 7 touchdowns on the year. He is closing in on 1,000 yards rushing. He has a big game for this week. I think that he could really, cross that threshold there. The thing that Kansas has got to be careful about, they got to limit the mistakes. K-State's defense, very opportunistic. They get some turnovers. They turn the football. They get some interceptions. Jacob Parrish has got 3 on the year. He's on the outside there. Will lead the third. He's got a couple interceptions as well. That secondary can flock to the ball. They can get after it as well. As for Kansas, though, man, it really is going to come down to me. For me, is the quarterback. I know that the offensive line is solid over there. They got a good defensive lineman in Austin Booker. Hopefully, he is ready and raring to go in the Sunflower Showdown. He had a nice game against Texas Tech, but he didn't have that dominant game. They may need a little bit more out of him. But like I said, this game is going to come down to the running backs. It's going to come down to Jason Bean. If Kansas has their full health of players, I'll take Kansas in those points. Give me 8 at home. And if I have my quarterback. If I don't have my quarterback, I'm getting a little bit nervous. But I really do like this team a lot. I like both of these teams. I think that this is going to be just a fun football game to watch. Just get your popcorn ready. It's a night game in Lawrence, 7 o'clock kick. So it's going to get real funky like a monkey, even though we're not down Fort Worth there, Fresh. So I don't know. I gotta know. I'm watching that game. I'm watching that line, and I'm keep my ear to the ground of whether or not Bean's playing. Bean plays, give me the Jayhawks. Bean doesn't play, give me K State.
I think either way, we're gonna have a lot of exciting football. Pads are gonna be popping on Saturday night.
Yeah, fresh. I could see like the Sunflower Showdown. Like it's so respected amongst school children in there that everyone on Friday like wears like the little kids sunflower like pageantry heads on it and like Sunflowers to Showdown. All right.
I'm not sure about that, but I think that'd be pretty funny if they did.
Things that go through my head while we're recording these things and say those things. Most of the time my filter catches those things. So all right, let's go to our next game of this week down in South Florida, Miami Gardens. The 9-1 Louisville Cardinals. They're 6-1 in the ACC. They're traveling to Miami. The Hurricanes. At one point, they were a tropical storm. They've fizzled out. They've regained strength. They played Florida State pretty tough last week. They're 6-4 in the year, 2-4 in the conference, though. That's really what hurts them. Louisville is a 1-point favorite in this game. Over under is set at 46.5. That's interesting there, Fresh. What do you got for Miami, Louisville? First time for us talking about Louisville.
I think both teams have had a lot of exciting moments. Louisville obviously been able to win those games, and Miami has been able to had a lot of crazy wins and a lot of disappointing losses. It's been a weird season for the Hurricanes. Last week, Miami actually gave FSU a pretty good fight. It's 27-20. They were battling. They gave Florida State everything they could handle in that football game. Florida State never ran away and hid. They were around the entire ball game, sort of made them fight, made them earn it, which is kind of what you want to see from a rivalry. How do they back that up this week? Because we've seen them put up decent efforts and then have complete just lay an egg. And in Louisville, they almost got caught by Virginia. They had a storm back. They had a back and forth game on as it went down, but they were able to survive the Who's. Maybe that was a wake up call. They kind of like they're going to say we'll go through it, and then before they knew it, they were in a ball game. They were able to turn it on late and get it done. I think Miami's much better than Virginia. They're going to have to play much better this week. The end is right there. They can see the light at the end of the tunnel. If they win this one, obviously it secures themselves a spot to play Florida State for the ACC title and keep their dreams alive for a potential New Year's Six Bowl if they win this ball game and beat Kentucky and maybe even beat Florida State. It puts them in a great spot. But you got to take care of business today, this week versus Miami for those things in the future to really come into play. The Hurricanes are allowing 312 total yards a game, which is third in the ACC, following Louisville. So these two teams play pretty good defense and have been very, very opportunistic all season long. But Miami's allowing 226 yards passing a game, which that's 11th in the ACC. They can be thrown on. The secondary's had some issues. They haven't got the pass rush. Their run defense has been pretty solid. The pass defense is terrible. When it comes to run defense, the Hurricanes and the Cardinals are 1 and 2 in run defense, allowing 86 and 91 total rushing yards a game, respectively. So ground games are very, very difficult. Air attack, get after the Hurricane secondary. They're not getting it locked down, which is it's still looking back in the annals of history and the Hurricanes and the defensive secondary, the defense in general, and then hearing that they have coverage issues. They're not very good on the back end. It just doesn't seem right. All the athletes down there, you should be able to load up and get some guys who can figure it out. They're still lacking in that department right now for the Hurricanes. And that's something that might come back to hurt them on Saturday versus Jack Plummer and the Cardinal passing attack. The Cardinals, though, I think to get the balance on that offense and really open up what they do to open up their passing game, if they rely on that running game a little bit, Jahar Jordan, just provide a little balance. 141 carries, 976 yards rushing, 11 touchdowns. He's averaging 6.9 yards a carry. So that balance of a running game with the passing game they've been able to bring there to Louisville has created a pretty solid attack across the board, and they've seen tremendous success. It's actually been able to carry them throughout the entire year. Both these quarterbacks have been up and down. They're almost identical, actually, when you look at stats. Jake Plummer, 173 for 264, 2,400 yards passing, 16 touchdowns, 9 picks. Tyler Van Dyke, 2,000 yards passing, 16 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Neither of these guys really keep the football and they protect it. They make a lot of they play heavy-hearted. They throw the ball around. They're willing to push the envelope a little bit, but they are going to make some mistakes and things are going to happen. Which secondary is going to be able to take advantage of these inopportune throws or bad reads or gunslinger mentality that comes into play on Saturday afternoon. They're going to put a couple up there. Which one's going to come down with the football and cause the turnovers and really turn the tide in the football game? That's going to be the big thing I'm going to watch. Which secondary wants to step up and make a play? Because these quarterbacks will give you the football if you're there and ready and prepare yourself for that situation. Hurricanes are at home in this ball game. They're 5-1. They should actually be undefeated if it wasn't for that meltdown versus Georgia Tech. And at home, they've won with an average score of 35.2 to 18.7. So they're dominating opponents at home. That includes Clemson, and that they've been able to win football games and win them convincingly. Texas A&M, another one, in Miami. And that's not because of a home field advantage, because the crowd, obviously, for the Hurricanes is never anything stellar. It hasn't been that way since the 90s when they played in the old Orange Bowl. They show up for one game a year, and that's usually Florida State. Maybe I should say every other year when Florida State comes to town. So can the Hurricane fans show up in this football game, create an environment at noon, give the Hurricane football team, especially the defense, a little extra boost? It's the final home game of the year. You have a chance of really pulling off a big upset, getting yourself a better bowl game, build this program. Because if you're a recruit, NIL only goes so far. If no one show up in the stands to support you, and especially in a big game late in the year when you have a chance to pull off an upset, does it really give me an incentive to want to go play for your program? This isn't the old Miami football teams where they actually dominated and drew people there because they were the only game in town. Now they're one of many, and they're not actually blowing people out. They're not playing that swagger. So it's tough to get people to the stadium. If you come out here and beat Louisville, maybe draw some attention, build some of that momentum, but you need that. And this should be a statement football game. At times you played real well, and at times you've kind of just lost your luster. Take advantage of being at home and go get it done. Mario Cristobal, when are you going to put this and get that monumental win? The A&M win actually looks a little worse now because the team is falling apart. Can you go down here and beat Louisville? You haven't beat Florida State. You have a chance to beat Louisville, maybe make up for some of it and give yourself a little springboard to go forward. Louisville, Coach Brom, the whole staff, be mindful of what you're at. You have a lot in front of you. Do not overlook the Hurricanes. Do not get caught up in the moment. You have to get this win because honestly, if you lose this game and still go to the ACC title game, it's just going to really be a wash, and Florida State's going to stomp you. Keep yourselves focused because you still have a New Year's Six potential at-large bid in scope by winning out the rest of the season. And then maybe even if you lost in the ACC title game, you still have a solid season. Stay focused. That's what good veteran football teams do. It might not be ugly, but if you win, that's all you have to do in this football game. In the end, I just have a hunch. Hurricanes are at home. I'm going to take the Miami Hurricanes to pull off the upset. I'm going to take them in a 31-21 win by 10. They jump on them early, get a big lead, and they hold on late. But the Hurricanes pull off the upset. I just have a feeling the way they play at home, they're coming with a little different. It's going to be a little warm, a little humid, sticky down there. It's a noon kick. Crazy things happen at noon. Louisville gets knocked off. Hurricanes finally get a big-time win under Cristobal and building something for 2024.
Fresh Van Dyke got knocked out of that Florida State game or pulled, or I am more looking at it. Emory Williams came in, and if you take a look, like the kid playing off the bench and being the backup this year, he only completed 8 passes. The guy couldn't really hit water if he's standing next to the ocean. I mean, he had a couple of touchdown passes. I need to see a better, if he's going to be the starter, if Van Dyke's going to be out for this game, I need to see more out of Williams here. Miami's got a great defense. That defense is going to be even tougher at home. You hit all of the main facts that I kind of had in my notes for this game, so I'm not just going to repeat you and like regurgitate just what you said there. But Miami is clearly a different football team at home than they are on the road. Cristobal's got to coach better, because if he doesn't, he needs to get at least this win. He's got Boston, the guy go up to BC next weekend. This has got to be it as a win and show like we are really building something here in Miami, or that seat's going to start getting kind of on the warm side. I don't necessarily want to say he's going to be on the hot seat. Louisville, I don't think any of us saw this coming. You take a look at what Plummer's done this season. What you take a look at, we kind of knew that they would have a decent receiving game with Thrash over there. You talk about like a one-man wide receiving crew earlier, and Thrash has been it. Although not to the same level. He's kind of had a a roller coaster of a ride of a season this year. He had a nice stretch there early and middle where he was almost just dominant, and then he'll go to a game where he'll just kind of drop off, and he won't have like a big matchup. You take a look at what he did against UVA, 3 catches, 22 yards. And then you go back to what he did in the Notre Dame one, 8 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown there. So he needs to show up and be the big-time receiver. Plummer's got to get him the football. He's the leading receiver. He's got to be the man over there. But again, this is going to be a defensive game. I think this is going to be very, very low scoring. Over-under is set 46.5. I think that's a perfect number. I don't know if that's going to come in or I kind of would say maybe take the over in that. But again, I'm right at that 46 mark, 47 mark. That's kind of right where I'd have it in at. I'll go Miami as well. I'll say Miami at home. People are going to look at this and go, "Oh my, what an upset!" It's just a different Hurricanes team in Coral Gables compared to when they have to travel outside of the state of Florida. Louisville, great year out of them though. Great first year with Braum over there. Hats off to them. They're building something special there. I hope he can continue to get the recruits and build that because that could be a fun program to watch next year.
Yeah, I mean, great call on the Williams though part because the injuries right now, it's quarterbacks, are they healthy? Or they want to hold them out? I mean, we saw at NC State where the certain quarterback got dinged up. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to redshirt next year. Who knows who's playing for the Hurricanes? I just think the whole team has a better swagger there at home too.
Right.
But if Louisville gets this win, it puts them in a great spot, I think, to have an at-large bid in the New Year's Six, win or loss to Florida State in the ACC title. That just puts them in the top that ranking position. So it's a big game for them right here to really supplant themselves as a legit program going forward in the conference.
Yeah, North Carolina is going to be heavy Miami fans in this game because that would bring it to a tiebreaker. And I'm not sure what the tiebreaker would be between Louisville and North Carolina.
Well, I mean, Carolina still would have to play NC State next week, so they still have some tough road to hoe to get themselves over that threshold.
Yeah, and again, I'd be interested to see what the ACC tiebreakers are to play Florida State. But either one of these teams would be a good matchup for Florida State.
Yeah.
All right, Fresh, let's go to Rocky Top, Georgia, 3-game stretch we talked about. Missouri, W there. Ole Miss, blowout win there. Georgia now going on the road. We're waiting to see. We have not gotten the rankings out yet. We talked about in our recap last week. If you have Tennessee right at 25, I'm nervous the committee is going to drop Tennessee completely out of the top 25 after getting boat raced by Missouri. It's not really going to matter. Georgia's eyes has to be to win the SEC title game. They win that, they're into the playoff regardless, one way or another. But it's so interesting. Like I had people talk to me about Tennessee, folks, stop calling for Josh Heupel's job. I heard some people go, "Oh, Josh Heupel is going to be on the hot seat." Folks, you're one. Would you like me to bring back Butch Jones? Would you like me to bring back Lane Kiffin for how you guys played with him? You have a really good football coach, a guy who really cares about Tennessee, and I think that you just need to give him a little bit of time. Fresh and I had a lot of questions going into the year about Joe Milton. Nico is a true freshman. He's not ready for the SEC. But I think year 2 is going to be more important for Tennessee next year. I'm going to kind of wait and hold off before I get the torches and pitchforks ready. But I'm also a Josh Heupel apologist, so I get it here. Fresh, Georgia coming off a huge win over Ole Miss. Brock Bowers is back. But the only thing is Georgia plays a little bit different on the road than they do at home. I know they have everything in front of them. Is there a possibility of a letdown game in this one?
I mean, I think the team is focused and they have an idea of what you want to accomplish. But the Vols play tougher at home. This is going to be the toughest road environment for Carson Beck. Auburn was one thing at 3:30. People are nailing the Vols. I think they have a hatred for Georgia that if you let them hang around, it could get a little more hostile in the second half. You have to go in and you have to take advantage and get after them early. You cannot give the Vols any life in the first half. Um, the Vols' last loss at home was to Georgia in 2021. So it's been almost actually November 13th, 2021. I think this is recording on November 13th, 2023. So 2 years to the day of record was the last time they lost at home. That's for the success they've had, but now they have a returning, evil coming back up there, and they have to, try to survive and get some revenge. Um, their talent is not what they had in 2022. The quarterback, I think Jalen Wright's, he's the only bright spot of that offense, that running game. Their offensive line is not what it was. Their receiving talent is not what it was. Their defense has been better, but this is a team that was living off of the laurels last year, but they are still lethal because they are playing desperate football at Tennessee right now. They have nothing to lose. Either they have a loss, and that's 4 losses for the year, or they pull off the biggest upset and completely just shatter Georgia's dreams. Because honestly, I'm going to say this right now, the way it is right here on November 13th with Oregon and Washington and Texas and Alabama set up, if Georgia lost to a unranked Tennessee football team, even if they won the SEC, there would be a lot of doubt, so people might want to put them in the playoff. Could they probably still get into the 4 seed after beating Alabama? It puts your situation, you no longer control your own destiny. And that's where Tennessee has a chance to conjure up some evil spirits there in Rocky Top. And if they pull off an upset, it gives them incentive to run. That's why you cannot give the Vols any life. You have to get after them early, get the crowd out of there, take down, get the crowd's exits by halftime and beat them down. If you let them hang around, the crowd noise gets there, crazy things happen in the second half, you never know. Football is football, sports are sports. You might have superior talent, but there are times where it might not always come to play, and some other team plays with momentum and gets an upset. I will say a couple of years ago, Oregon was looking like they were going to be in the playoff. They went to Arizona State, and a freshman quarterback named Jalen Daniels led the Sun Devils to a big upset over the Oregon Ducks and knocked the Ducks out of the playoff, potentially contention. So, crazy things happen. We've seen it all over the place. There was even a year where West Virginia was supposed to go to the BCS, and Pitt took them out in a rivalry game. Things happen. You've got to play football. You've got to execute on every single play. You cannot let other teams stay around. If you are the superior football team in terms of roster depth and record, you have to come out there and play like it. You cannot give any inch or any momentum to the opposition to let them even think they are in the football game. You've gone the last 3 times the Dogs have gone to Knoxville, they've scored at least 41. In the last 5 trips, they've scored at least 31. So they've been putting points up on the Vols every single time they're there. You have to keep that going this week. Offensively, you've been playing great the past few weeks. Offensive line's been there. Receivers been catching the football. Bowers is back healthy. Running game's been strong. They have to make sure they keep attacking. The defense is not as dominant as was the past 2 years, but they're still very, very good. They're still a top 10 defense in the nation. If they can just keep developing there and shut down Tennessee, if you start giving up some early touchdowns, give them some momentum, it keeps them in the ball game and it gives them some sort of hope. The Vols have run the ball a lot, and that also helps them in this football game. They're averaging 213, which is second in the SEC, and they have the 4th best overall offense at 454 in the SEC. So they're obviously below the Dogs in the overall offensive perspective, but they have a great running game, and that's helped provide them some balance. And that helps kill the clock, helps the rest of the defense. If they get the ground game going, they have to keep the same kind of philosophy that Ole Miss had, even though at least they came into the game with that. Ole Miss was going to come in and try to run the football. That didn't turn out too well because they got put down early, and they were never allowed to use the running game to keep them going. If you get after the opponent early, you shut the running game down, they have to start throwing the ball a lot in the comeback situation, and that's where that offensive game plan goes away. Dogs have to make sure they come out and physically own the line of scrimmage, you shut down the Tennessee run game, and force Milton to throw. If you force Milton to throw and make him make decisions, that's where he can start losing his focus. You cannot give him that play action ability or be able to get on the edge and throw. The Vols also, even though Georgia's only given 9 sacks in the season, if they are put in a position to have to make a comeback or getting late, Tennessee has 33 sacks on the season, led by James Pierce, who has 8. You've got to dictate the offense. You've got to dictate the line of scrimmage, keep the down and distance, use the play action. That limits that pass rush from Tennessee. If you have to get put in obvious passing situations or your crowd noise potentially gets to you, whatever might happen, if there's a crowd still around the football game or early in the ball game, that's where that pass rush for Tennessee starts becoming a factor. You've got to be able to dictate the line of scrimmage and run the football. In Tennessee's 3 losses, the opponent's starting running back has run rampant all over the Volunteer defense. Etienne ran for 172, McClellan ran for 115, and Schrader last week ran for 200. Obviously, all 3 of those games were on the road, but they were able to take the life out of Tennessee offense, and they were able to physically destroy them at the line of scrimmage. And that's what at the end of the football game, Tennessee quit. In all 3 of those games, Tennessee quit. What happened last year? Tennessee quit. What happened 2 years ago up in Knoxville? Tennessee quit. You've got to run the football down their throat, build out the play action. Do not give them any hope. Because if Tennessee gets hope, they have playmakers. They can hit a deep, 60-yard touchdown here and there and keep them in the ball game or pull off an upset. You can't let the craziness happen. You've got to come in and handle your business for Georgia. If you're Tennessee, you have to play open. You have to play loose. You have to play, just no holds bar. Let it happen. You cannot throw a get in terms of penalties. You cannot be going reckless by personal fouls and all other nonsense. Play within yourself. Go out there and throw for touchdowns if you have to. Because if you don't do it early, Georgia will wear you down and they will run you out of the building and your fans will leave. You cannot lose your home field advantage early. If you do, it's just going to become a steamroller and it's going to keep beating you down. Josh Heupel, what kind of coaching adjustments can you make? You've coached now against Kirby Smart 2 years in a row, and you've gotten your offense completely the offense has been non-existent in the second half. Your defense has gotten rolled over. What adjustments are you able to make and be a true head coach? What does your staff actually put together to shut down Georgia? Because you're using your barometer as we've got to beat Georgia to get to Atlanta. Well, you're not going to Atlanta again, but you still haven't beat Georgia either. Have you ever a chance to get it done at home? What adjustments have you making offensively and defensively to take after and attack Mike Bobo's offense or Glenn Schulman's defense? Where do you adjust and make those in growth points from your coaching perspective? Because if not, you're just a gimmick offense that puts up points against nobodies, and then the games that matter, you struggle. Where are you going to make those changes? This could actually be a staple in your career. There's people not calling for his job. I don't think he should be fired, but there's definitely a point where you've got to start showing some growth in your own game too. In the end, I think the coaching for Georgia is better. They have a depth, and I think they see the focus of where they want to be, and they have a goal. They're going to come into a business like they're going to get done. I think Dogs win 37-17. Tennessee just does not have the talent right now. Milton's not trusted enough at quarterback. Could Tennessee potentially win, pull off a crazy upset? They do have weapons that they could maybe something crazy could happen. But the momentum right now that Georgia's building, I think eventually they run the ball down their throat between Milton and Edwards and company, and they get it done and win 37-17. Dogs move on to Georgia Tech next week.
Fresh, I'm looking at this. I need to make my case for Tennessee. Because when I looked at the game,
this wouldn't be our podcast if you didn't, Seth.
I know. But because everything is always going to be like the smart money is going to go on to Georgia. So what in the world does Tennessee need to do to win this football game? The two things about Georgia that I started to notice, and you can see, like, you take a look at what happened even though Ole Miss got boat raced early on for that, they still wound up having over almost 180 yards on the ground. Again, some things coming in garbage time and stuff like that. Missouri with Schrader was able to start to run the football. And then I went back to the Auburn game. And that's where I started to take a look at this. Again, Auburn in that football game, they were able to run the football for 219 yards on Georgia. If you're going to beat Georgia, Tennessee, it's going to start. It cannot go onto Joe Milton's shoulders. You're going to need Jalen Wright, Dylan Sampson, Jabari Small, Joe Milton, Cameron Sheldon. You're going to need every one of them to gain and kind of chip away with them and run the football and kind of play keep away with Georgia. You need to have your defense show up. You're going to need to put Georgia in third and long situations where put completely in Carson Beck and then, double team Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers and then, let one of the other guys try to beat you. It's kind of that old adage, like, we're gonna let certain people get theirs and then we'll just make one of the other guys have to beat us. Like, I need to see, Lovett or Rosemead, Jack Saint, like any of those guys, Ra Thomas, one of those guys force one of them to really step up and have a big game in there if I'm Tennessee. I think Tennessee is going to keep this game close. I think this is going to be very similar to 2 years ago. Tennessee kept that game close up through the second quarter, and then third quarter, Georgia just blew it wide open. I want to say Georgia just absolutely put the boots to them and just blew that game wide open once you hit the third quarter. I think that's something that's very, very similar in this situation. Yeah, actually, I'm sorry, it's the second quarter. And the second quarter, Georgia just started pouring it on. I think it's going to be third quarter where you see Georgia really open it up. But if Tennessee wants to have any chance whatsoever in this football game, they have to run the football, and they got to stop making penalties. Go back to the Alabama game 2 years ago. Knoxville was loud. It was rambunctious. Georgia has 44 penalties on the season. Tennessee has 82 or 83 or something like that. 80 plus penalties. That's where, though, if you look at that Alabama game, Alabama committed 17 penalties in those games. And again, Alabama, you're going to say, oh, the refs gave you. They didn't give you 17 penalties. That was an undisciplined game. So if Georgia's going to lose this football game, it's going to be because the crowd noise gets to them. Tennessee is able to run the football on them. And it just, Josh Heupel calls the most amazing game of his career, and Tim Banks calls an amazing defensive game plan there. I don't see that happening. I got Georgia winning. I got Georgia by 9 in this game. I think the spread right now is 10.5. I'm always nervous to take double. I would stay away from this football game. I don't like taking double-digit road favorites in this. So I kind of would stay away with it. But like I said, Georgia's going to pull away second half in this football game. Close in the first half. I think it's going to be back and forth in the first half. But you'll see the difference between these two programs where they're at currently in this. But you're right, Fresh. Heupel wins this football game. You can really hang your hat on that type of W, and really walk around and puff your chest out. And I think it becomes very interesting going into next season because I don't think Tennessee plays Georgia next year.
No, they don't.
So this could be one of those things that really springboards you into next season. So,
well, that's kind of what you have to be focused when you come into the football game. We talked about earlier. You can't let any opportunity, you can't overlook anybody. You've got to be disciplined to address it because it could be a season ruiner if you don't play, you don't take it seriously, or don't come out playing immediately.
Right. But, like I said, Fresh, I got Georgia winning second half, though. Big time on that one. All right, Fresh.
Just win, baby.
Let's go to the game of the week. This is the best game this weekend. I'm excited for this one. I got a huge monumental pick for this one. I might throw people off on this. Washington traveling to the ever dangerous Corvallis, Oregon. The Washington Huskies are 10-0 on the season. They're first place in the Pac-12. Oregon State 8-2 on the year, 5-2 in the conference. Both of their losses, though, this year for Oregon State have happened away from Corvallis. Fresh, we've talked about Corvallis, hard place to go in and play at. Washington has not looked like the world beaters. They're starting to show some kinks in that armor there. I don't know, man. I'm excited. What do you got for me, Fresh?
Well, Huskies only have one win by 10 or more in their last 6 games. A lot of gritty football games, holding on, trying to survive. And that 10-point win was pouring it on late versus USC. And that was, definitely in the fourth quarter before it was truly decided. So they've had a lot of gritty football games. They've had a lot of tough football games. But actually, in a way, it's been good to test Kellen DeBoer's squad. Do they have the fortitude to really rally and hold strong and play a full 4 quarters? And find ways to win ball games late, get the key third down there to ice the ball game away. So that's a positive. But the other scary thing is we look at who are the best 4 teams in the country. You're letting a lot of teams hang around. We saw it with Oklahoma early. They let a lot of teams hang around, and they finally got up 2 weeks in a row because they weren't able to be efficient every single game, or you just get exhausted. You had to play at such a high level. Maybe you don't have the total depth to get you through. Where does Michael Penix Jr. in this receiving core? How does Dylan Johnson at running back? How do they all continue to form? This Washington defense, we expected more from them earlier, and they haven't been exactly as dominant as we want to see. They're middle of the pack. They're okay, but they haven't been locked down to help balance out that offense. And at some point, if your offense isn't fully clicking, are you going to get beat? Utah isn't exactly the greatest offense, and they almost got them last week, and their offense actually showed up. Oregon State, I think, has a little more weapons, a little more of a solid quarterback play right now with the balance at running attack. DJU and obviously the grouping of Martinez leading the pack there for the Beavers. I think that right there at home helps them keep the down distance, manage the clock, and have that veteran player. They've been in big games. They know what to do. DJU went to Notre Dame in his 2020 year and actually got a win. So he's been able to go on the road and get wins against big teams. Being at home is probably going to be a little extra boost for him to be in that kind of environment. Oregon State, you have two big, Washington this week. Obviously, the Civil War next week. Which game means more to this team? Do you go for both, or do you say, you know what, if we're kind of losing to Washington, sort of check it back and then save our momentum just to beat our arch rival in the Ducks? I think you go for it here in this football game because honestly, it makes next week even bigger. It keeps you in a higher profile, shakes things up really in the Pac-12. Your defense is going to have to be almost perfect in this football game, especially in the secondary. How do you manage pass rush? Do you keep everybody in front of you? Do you start running 5-6 defensive backs? Do not rush too heavy on Penix Jr. His ability to escape to the perimeter and keep the play alive is what makes him a little dangerous. He's not going to be a major running threat, but his mobility in the pocket, his mobility on the edges to create and extend the play is what makes him a very good quarterback. You don't have to always get the quarterback sack. I think this is a rule of football. If you sort of come up and set the edge and keep the quarterback in the pocket and force him to throw when he doesn't want to or he's not comfortable, that's where incomplete passes happen. That's where turnovers come into play. And sometimes getting a perimeter around the quarterback as opposed to getting the sack actually does just as much damage. So how does that Oregon State defense at home really play excellent football, play execution? Where's their execution? Do they align themselves right? Who's going to make a play on defense to help get off the field? Cannot let anyone get behind you because that receiving depth for Washington is pretty lethal. DJU and that Oregon State offense, they're going to have to score. You can't win the football game by scoring 17 points. You're going to need at least 27 to beat Washington, probably even into the 30s. So you're going to have to be able to match at least drive for touchdowns. You cannot settle for field goals. You have to score touchdowns on your drives. Field goals will not win you this football game. I'm not saying you're going to have to get in a shootout, but you're going to have to be very deliberate in your drives to be able to put points on the board because Washington could score at any moment. You cannot let them off the hook, cannot let them stay around the football game. Use the crowd to your advantage. Use that hostile environment. You score touchdowns that can build the crowd up, play gritty defense, get off the field, make it disruptive. How tired are the Huskies? They've played game after game after game after game all year long. Where's that depth going to come into play? You've got to wear them down, be physical. I think Damian Martinez, if he's not getting 30 carries, 25 carries, pound the rock. See when they're going to give up. See if that defense gets tired. They've been on the field a lot. Their offense scores quickly. How do you wear them down? Maybe get them to break a little bit. Or you truly test them and see if they are truly worthy a national championship contender. They find ways to withstand Oregon State and get it done. Washington, everything's in front of you. You're undefeated. Everyone's coming for you. You have this game. You got the Apple Cup next week. Pac-12 title game probably after that. You might get a rematch with Oregon. You're on the outside looking in. You're that 5 seed, in the playoff rankings as of last week. We haven't seen what they come out on Tuesday. Everyone's waiting for you to lose. They actually people want you to lose, make it even more chaotic. Right now, if 5 undefeated teams, which there won't be 5 because obviously Michigan and Oregon and Ohio State play each other, but they want to make it easy on the committee by you losing. Make it hard on the committee and go out there and win. Make them make a decision sometimes on that Sunday. Penix Jr., have your Heisman moment. Because right now the Oregon game kind of is distant memory. Now you're getting this big game. The lights are on. Everyone's going to be watching you. Go get it done. If you go out there and put up some big numbers, you separate yourself. Because Jordan Travis, what he does this weekend versus Florida, not going to be a big deal. His moment won't probably come until ACC title game. I think you have a better platform to have a Heisman moment and really showcase your skills and maybe supplant yourself as that trophy winner. If you struggle, it could do the exact opposite. You've got to be on your P's and Q's. You've got to be sharp and ready to play. in the end, there's been too many close calls for the Huskies, and Oregon State is a gritty football team. Jonathan Smith is a very, very good football coach. I think the Beavers show up and get the dub 31-30 on a game-winning field goal. DJU is going to drive them down, set them up. They're going to bang it home. 31-30. Beavers beat the Huskies. Undefeated season's down, and really sets up for a Pac-12 title game that could really be pretty intriguing from there.
Fresh, do you know a lot about beavers?
They like to build a lot of dams.
So the beaver is a fascinating animal. And a family of beavers is known as a colony. And it's usually the beavers mate for life. They only have one mating partner, and the young will stay with the parent beavers for 2 years, even as they grow as an adult, to learn how to survive in the wilderness. And they will protect their family. They will defend, as a family, as a colony, will defend against anyone who tries to come into their home area, which is not just the dams, but they also use that to build almost like a lodge of a place, something similar to a place like Corvallis. The beaver's home is under attack, Fresh. The Beaver home is under attack when it comes to Penix Jr. and this wide receiving core. Dylan Johnson has been absolutely phenomenal in this last couple of games. You take a look, at what Adunza and Polk has done over there, the wide receiving duo of them, two of the best wide receivers in the entire country. This offense comes in hot and ready to roll. Oregon, you have something in front of you. DJU, you're going to need to lean on the law firm of Martinez and Fenwick there, because that's exactly what it sounds like as a law firm. Those two dudes are both averaging over 5.5 yards a carry. Martinez is averaging over 6.5 yards a carry. He's got 1,000 yards already on the season. You got to run the football. Stay balanced. You can force this Washington team into some mistakes there. And you take a look at everything that this Oregon State team has done. Corvallis is a tough place to go into, man. It is going to be rocking. It is going to be it's going to be dusky. The sun's going to go down about 4:30. Fresh. The other fun fact about beavers is they are not daytime animals. Now, they're not full-on nocturnal. They're not a nighttime animal. They're not like that. But they like the dusk. They like the evening time. So this game is perfect for the Beavers. This game is perfect for them to take a hold of this. Washington, you've been my team that I have been trumpeting you since the preseason. Michael Penix Jr., you have been my Heisman pick for every single week this year in college football. I think Washington is on a course to make the college football playoff. I think they're a really, really good football team. I think they're really good. I think this is one of the best college football teams in the entire country. But you got to go to Corvallis. And the Beavers are going to build that dam, Fresh. We've talked about building that dam. Folks, you don't got to go into the comment section. You don't have to call us closet case Oregon State fans. Folks, I am giving you fun fact after fun fact about the Beaver family. I'm sure I probably got something wrong along the way, but go ahead and leave that in the comment section as well. I am picking Oregon State in this game, and I am going to say they're going to win by a touchdown in this game. It's not going to be a 1-point game. I think we are going to wake up Sunday morning or before you go to bed Saturday night and go, oh my gosh, what did Oregon State do? They are going to be the talk of the town, and it is going to come down to next weekend in the Civil War. Oregon State, winner goes to play Washington again in the Pac-12 title game. Boom goes the dynamite. Boom goes the dam, Fresh. The Beavers are rolling. Build that dam. Build that colony. I love this game, and I'm fired up. Best game of the week here.
I mean, I think the intrigue is that you have two very quality football teams who are well coached. And they've shown that not just this year, this last year as well. And you're seeing them develop. They've done it different ways. They both embody their head coaches. DeVore, high flying, big time offense. Jonathan Smith is very reserved, but nitty gritty, line of scrimmage, pound it out, run the football, analytical. And the way they capture each other's images, and that's what they also makes it really cool is that these guys they've built the programs in their image, and they both play that strong way. But I have a feeling right now you're going to see that gritty, that nastiness from Oregon State, especially on defense, because that team they get a ton of sacks, well over 30 so far in the year. They are a great pass defense, one of the best in the Pac-12, and they're going to show up and they're going to show the world that we are more than just our quarterback and our running back and our head coach. We have our defense, and we're going to get the dub.
Yeah, and here's our fun fact for you, Fresh. The reason why Oregon State's orange, it's the color of beavers' teeth. Beavers have orange. Yep, they maybe want to. Fresh, that is week number 12. It's an exciting week. I'm jacked for it. Guys, before you head out of here, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, because we got rivalry week coming up next weekend. And you know what that means. We're not dropping one. We're going to drop two different episodes to get you ready for all the Thanksgiving tradition, all of the Thanksgiving fun, football, and family that you can possibly care to enjoy or to avoid, depending on what your family's like. But we'll give you stuff to talk football with people all weekend long. Make sure you're checking out SpinnableSports.com. Yep, that's SpinnableSports.com, because the Irrational Confidence Podcast is part of Spinnable Sports. So check that out as well. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. And make sure you're checking out our buddy over at the Photo Finish. If you're a guy like me who doesn't know diddly squat about horse racing and you need help from who to bet on and you're down at the Churchill Downs or I don't remember what the one place in Ohio I used to go to back in the day when you just turned 18. But if you don't even know how to read a horse racing form, he's got all that information for you. And maybe, just maybe, he might be coming on and joining us one of these days. So make sure you check out his podcast over there. Hit that subscribe button. You'll get all of that great info. And guess what? Guys, leave us that comment down there. Leave us that like. Leave us that 5-star review. Because by doing all of that stuff, we keep this channel completely free. You don't pay for anything. We don't do anything along those lines. Charge you anything behind a paywall. Nope. This is free stuff for you. So makes it a whole lot of fun for us. Fresh, it's that weekend. It's going to be a great one. We gave you a bunch of great games.
It's a big weekend. Every snap means more. Every play means more. The real test of the players and the coaches, who can handle the stress of being in a high pressure situation, and who will emerge victorious, and who might stumble along the way. But that's why we play the games. That's why we love sports. I can't wait for Saturday, and it's big time now. Don't forget, everyone, follow us on social media, subscribe, spread the word, spread the joy, and we'll come back to you with a recap episode in a couple days, and then on to Rivalry Week, where we have a lot of fun. And with that, bye, y'all.
Go Buckeyes.
Go Dogs.